Hello, I'm Nathan Harvey, and today I'd like to share Dora's perspective on platform engineering. You are a technologist working in a customer focused organization. Whether that organization is an airline, a bank, a retailer, or in any other industry, one thing is clear: your organization is a technology driven organization. And it is technology that enables great user experiences and drives real business value. And there's pressure to do more with less and do so faster. We all feel the need to accelerate and accelerate a lot of different things like delivery and engagement and anticipation of changes and response to risks. It's about more than just speed. How can your organization optimize value delivery from investment in technology and technologists? You'll need a way to assess how you're doing today, identify areas to invest and make improvements, and a feedback loop to tell you how you're progressing. And you'll want to build the organizational muscles required to repeat this over time. In short, you'll need to invest in getting better at getting better. And this is a place where Dora can really help. But how can you measure the success of platforms and your investments in platform engineering? Well, the CNCF published a white paper that provides some guidance here. In the white paper, they've outlined three key areas for measuring success. It starts with user satisfaction and productivity. We build platforms to improve developer experience and increase developer productivity. The primary users of the platform are developers and engineers working in your same organization. Keeping the needs of these users in mind is a critical part of the platform engineering journey. Dora assesses the user focus of a team by asking questions about the extent to which your team has a clear understanding of what your users want to accomplish, the extent to which your team's success is evaluated according to the value that you provide to the users and your organization, and to the extent to which specifications, for example, requirements and roadmaps and planning, are continuously revisited and reprioritized according to user signals. And you know what we found? We have found that teams that focus on the user have a 20% higher job satisfaction. These teams also saw significant increases in team performance, job satisfaction, productivity, and operational performance. Oh, and these teams see lower levels of burnout. That's great. But it goes beyond that. These teams that are focused on the users also have 40% higher organizational performance. Understanding and responding to the needs of the users of your platform is a great place to start. Are you building things to reduce friction and toil for the developers? Are you contributing to a positive developer experience? Well, it's probably a good idea to go ask those developers to make sure. This improved organizational performance is also one way to measure the impact of your platform engineering efforts. User satisfaction and productivity can drive organizational efficiency, and a platform plays an important role in helping technology teams across the organization. Building broadly applicable capabilities into the platform, things such as compliance checks, this is a good way to get more leverage out of your platform investments. And Dora's research looks at organizational performance as well. We look at it in a number of different ways, particularly commercial measures and non-commercial measures. Commercial measures like what's your relative market share, what's your overall organization's overall performance and profitability, how about the number of customers that you have and your operating efficiency. On the non-commercial side, we look at things like, is your organization achieving its organizational mission and goals? Are your customers satisfied? What about the quality of the products and services you provide? Oh, and what about the quantity of products and services you provide? Another important outcome in Dora's research, as you see here, is the well-being of people in your organization. The users of the platform are software developers building applications for your organization's customers. The platform must help them deliver the features that their customers need. Your role as a platform engineer is to enable development teams to deliver value to customers. For over a decade, Dora has demonstrated that software delivery performance predicts organizational performance and team well-being, two very important outcomes. So let's see how well that is going. And I encourage you to do this with the teams that are sitting on top of your platform, or even with your platform team itself. I'm over here on Dora.dev, and one of the things that we have here, well, we have a lot of things here. You can learn all about Dora, and you can take the 2024 survey. Back to that in a few minutes. But the thing I want to look at right now is what we call the Dora Quick Check. This Dora Quick Check can be used by any application team or, frankly, any platform team to get a quick assessment of how you and your team are doing today. We are going to check on your software delivery performance. To do so, we're going to look at 4 key metrics. 2 that have to do with throughput and 2 for stability. We'll start with the throughput measures. So, for the application or service that you work on, whether that's a customer-facing application or maybe even the platform that your organization uses, what is the lead time for changes? In other words, how long does it take for a change of any kind, a configuration change, a code change, doesn't really matter, but any change to go from committed on the developer's workstation all the way through to running in production? I'm just going to throw in some random answers here as we go. Next, on throughput is the deployment frequency. So we talked about how long does it take a change to get to production. This next question is about how frequently are you updating your production environments, those production systems. Again, I'm just going to throw in some random answers. Those are our 2 throughput questions. Now let's move on to the stability questions, because of course we want to move fast, but we don't want to break things all the time. So we want those changes to land in a stable way. So the first stability question we have is the change fail percentage. How often when you push to production, is there an issue? Something that interrupts your customers and we need to roll that back right now, or push forward a hot fix. Whatever we do, we cannot wait for the next release. We've got to fix this right now. What is your change fail percentage? And then next, look, we know changes are going to cause failures from time to time. That's expected. None of us are perfect, and certainly none of our very complex systems are perfect. But we do want to understand when there is a failed deployment, how long does it take to recover from that and get everything back to normal so that your customers can interact with the system again? So let's give an answer there. Now, before I move on, I want to say a couple more words about these 4 metrics. Remember, 2 for stability, 2 for throughput. And here's an interesting thing that we found in our decade of research and revalidated every single year. Stability and throughput are not trade-offs of one another. In fact, they tend to move together. We find that the top performing teams achieve good results on both throughput and stability metrics. And unfortunately, the lower performing teams tend to perform poorly on both of those metrics as well. Low throughput, low stability. The other thing about these 4 metrics, though, that I think is really important is that these metrics can apply to any type of technology that you're delivering. It could be a mobile application. It could be a retail banking site. It could be a POS system at a restaurant. And it could, frankly, it could be the platform that your platform engineering team is building. So understanding how well you're doing is really important. But bear in mind, understanding how you're doing is not the same as how someone else is doing, because someone else or another team, another application, they work in a completely different context. So avoid the temptation to compare the performance of one application versus the performance of another. You're really comparing apples and oranges, and that doesn't really make sense. Oh, I guess the final thing I'll say about these 4 metrics, when I talked about how throughput and stability aren't trade-offs of one another, another thing that we see is that that's true across all industries. Whether you're in a technology industry or you're in a highly regulated financial services or you're in a government or healthcare or retail, it doesn't really matter. We see high performing teams across every one of those industries. We also see some low performing teams across every one of those industries. So we know that industry is not a big determining factor or a big predictor of how well you're going to do. Okay, so I've answered these questions. Now what? Well, now we get a baseline of how your team is doing. And you can see that right here. Now, if you want, you can take this baseline and compare yourself to other industries. You could compare this with financial services or nonprofit or telecommunications. Again, it's not overly insightful. Just be careful as you do that. But the most important thing here is we now have a baseline of how you're doing today. So with that baseline in hand, what do we do next? I mean, it's great to understand where we are, but that doesn't really tell me how I might improve. Well, this is where we go back and sort of further into the research. With this baseline in hand, we can now start to map out our path to improvement. And that starts with the capabilities that predict improved software delivery performance. Capabilities that fit into these three broad categories: making small changes, getting fast feedback on those changes, and working in a climate that is focused on learning. Expanding that out a bit, we see a set of capabilities that predict software delivery performance. These capabilities cover culture, process, and technical capabilities. So as a platform engineering team, your role is to work together with the other engineers in your organization to identify, of these capabilities, what's holding them back. The capabilities that are holding them back might just be the next thing that your platform should prioritize. It might be something like technical documentation. You see, that's one of the capabilities here. Maybe teams just have problems with knowledge sharing and they have trouble finding the information that they need. Perhaps one of the roles of your platform engineering team could be to help improve the technical documentation across the organization. Beyond that, of course, there are other capabilities. Maybe one team is struggling with continuous integration or with security practices and compliance checks. Build those things into the platform to make it easier for them. Dora encourages a process of continuous learning and continuous improvement. How does that work? Well, you set a baseline with those software delivery metrics. Then you identify the top constraint holding a team back. Once you have that constraint identified, do some work to improve that constraint. Try to make it better, alleviate that constraint. Once you've done that, restart the process. Set a baseline, check for the constraint, do work to improve that. Repeat the process. This model, though, can help you identify the next steps of your platform journey as you build out the platform to help those development teams that are running on top of the platform. Of course, this model can also help you as a platform engineering team identify what do we need to improve about our own practices and capabilities. In short, this model can help your entire organization get better at getting better. And I want to leave you today with two final messages. The first comes from Rick Rubin, a very successful music producer and philosopher. His words today: there are no shortcuts. You have to do the work. When I hear these words, I reflect on platforms and platform engineering teams. There is no one-size-fits-all platform. Context is important, and a successful platform engineering initiative requires ongoing care and maintenance. Start by understanding your users and building out the capabilities that will improve their experience while allowing them to improve software delivery performance. And finally today, I'd like to invite you to take this year's Dora survey. Taking the survey helps our entire community learn more about the capabilities and practices of high-performing teams. And this year's survey includes an expanded look into how teams are approaching platform engineering, the impacts of AI on those technology-driven teams, And of course, how's the developer experience? Look, use this survey to help the entire industry, but maybe get a little bit more selfish with it. I encourage you to use this survey as a moment of reflection for how you and your team are doing today, and maybe you'll find some inspiration about areas to improve tomorrow. And with that, I want to say thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of PlatformCon.